Evening and welcome to Football Matters. Now, do not adjust your devices. I'm not Andy Sixsmith, thankfully. I am Mark Carruthers and I'm your host for this week. Much like a backup goalkeeper that no one really trusts, I've been thrust into the number one shirt, but I've got a trusty and reliable team, sort of, in front of me. A new face as well, or a familiar face, I should say. But first up, bringing the grit and the determination to go in where it hurts, just as he did during his playing career, it is former Sunderland defender Darren Williams, bringing some French flair with more than a hint of Geordie in that accent. It is Olivier Bernard. And after lengthy discussions and negotiations, fees were agreed, wages were brushed over. Making a welcome return to Football Matters, it is former North Shields striker and assistant manager Andy Bowman. Welcome back, Andy. Good to have you back on the show. Just to kick us off, just have a little quick chat. Obviously, Lionel Messi has reached another landmark in his career. Many landmarks he's reached. So what I want you to do, just to get us underway, if one of you can pick out a personal milestone or landmark moment from each of your careers, I think we take the mick out all these quite enough on the show. So we'll have a nice start to the show. So Darren, you first.
I don't know. I've scored in the Premiership, but I think obviously achieving maybe an England B cap at the time when there was a lot of extremely good players in and around obviously the Premier League, and really taking the field when you've got the likes of Kevin Phillips sat on the bench. I know obviously we were different positions, but seeing that and seeing Kev on the bench and on the taking the field with the likes of Matt Le Tissier, Jamie Redknapp, Les Ferdinand and people like that, was probably a landmark for myself, really.
Some pretty handy players in there then.
Yeah, just a few.
Ollie, next up.
Oh, there's that many, for me, it's probably Champions League football. It's one of the few things that growing up, you look on the telly and I wish I was on the other side of the screen, and I managed that. And the day I did, I came home with a big pride, because watching the resume at 11 o'clock at night make you feel proud in that sense. So yeah, definitely Champions League.
Rightly so. Andy, last up.
Well, I didn't want to play in the Champions League. I didn't want to be in England B set up. So it's just because I didn't want to. It's not because I didn't. No, obviously, for me, the Wembley win, the FA Vase finals, it's a fantastic day. It's for a non-league footballer, it's the ultimate. But I think personally though, I played Newcastle reserves for North Shields at Rolf Gardner Park, and it was a nighttime game, and it was a lot of people in, and I got a hat-trick against them, left foot, right foot header as well. So that was a really good, nice occasion for me personally. That was excellent. But yeah, so
any notable players in that Newcastle side?
It was Peter Ramage was marking me, or not marking me. Calvin Zola played that night. Right. Likes of Tommy English, and it was that kind of era. So there was the Bradley Orr played. Some decent hands. There's a few more, but it went 3-0 up, believe it or not, and then got pegged back to 3s each. So, which is fair enough against them.
Okay, nice way to celebrate and start the show with recalling some great moments in your careers. We're going to move on though. We're going to have two guests on tonight. The Athletic's Chris Waugh will be joining us in just a moment, and we're going to have Gateshead assistant manager Ian Watson, who'll be discussing their National League North playoff bid. On the agenda, we'll also discuss Middlesbrough's relegation woes, Gateshead's playoff challenge, surprise signing at Seaham Red Star, and a shock player returning to Dunston UTS. But first up, we're going to start with Newcastle, in form since the restart, continued their unbeaten league run, now up to 6 games after a 2-2 draw against West Ham at St James's Park on Sunday. Ollie, this one, is it a point gained or 2 points lost in your opinion?
I think it was one of the most boring games I've seen of Newcastle. No, I've seen since the lockdown. That's probably on the worst one on the tally. I don't think any other team wanted the win. I think both of them didn't want to lose. In fact, every time Newcastle conceded, they scored straight after.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel anything other than and that's been going on for a few years now. When you play lower team, we do struggle. We tend to struggle to dictate, to put a tempo into the game. We're quite good in reaction, but as soon as we got to make it happen, we tend to struggle. And that's where I find it very difficult watching Newcastle.
Yeah.
Unless you play in the big game, then there's no entertainment whatsoever, because all they do is wait. But when you play in a struggling side like Villa, you cannot wait. You've got to dictate. You've got to take possession. You've got to move the ball around, and we can't do it. We don't know how to do it.
Was it especially disappointing to get that performance, given the performance they put in at Bournemouth in midweek?
Yeah, but Bournemouth is very much relying on going forward. So you get quite a perfect opposition to play against, because once they go forward, they commit, and they struggle going backwards, and Newcastle capitalized on that. But when you have a team like Villa who doesn't want to play, who doesn't want to lose, and then it was almost Newcastle giving them the ball and asking them to do something with it, where they were the home side.
Andy, I'll bring you in now. What did you make of Steve Bruce's team selection yesterday? Made changes from Bournemouth. Has received some light criticism because of his team selection. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I think it's very much now the fact they are safe. They've got the points total which they need. I think he'll be doing it for his own reasons now. It's not necessarily just because he doesn't need to play his best 11 every game now. He'll be looking after players. He'll be, you don't see what happens on the training ground, or who's actually suffering playing all these games one after the other. I thought it was okay. I quite like watching. I don't mind Dwight Gale up there, because I think he's got a goal in him.
Yeah.
And for me, Joe Linton, he just seems to. I think he just doesn't seem to have that instinct in front of goal, like, at all. I think he does his bit. He kind of puts himself about, but you want more. And I'm not going to mention the price tag. I think that's irrelevant in today's football, really.
Yeah.
You're worth what someone pays for you. But you just watch, and even Almiron in that first goal, he's kind of gone across the defender. Now that's Joe Linton. That's what he should be doing as a centre forward. He's got to have that instinct. Every time he gets the ball within that 18-yard box, he's got to look to score. And it can't just be confidence. He's got to have that in him, and I haven't seen it.
Darren, just on that comparison there between Joe Linton and Dwight Gale, do you feel Newcastle have benefited from having a natural striker up front in Dwight Gale, rather than someone who has been described as a number 10 or a wide forward in Joe Linton?
Yeah, I do. I think they have benefited from it. I think, we spoke about it previously, in previous games, the ball was going up. There was too much of a distance between the midfield and the striker. Which as a striker, it's a very difficult, job to hold that ball up. I think, Gale gives a different side of the game as well. Obviously, he'll run in behind. He won't give you a moment. I think it does. Newcastle have got then that like mix and match type of thing, so they can mix it or change it at any point. But I agree with Ollie. I think maybe Newcastle are going through the motions a little bit now. They are safe. They have got themselves in a comfortable position. Could they have gone on and won that game the other day? Yeah, probably easily. Yeah. But I think they just maybe is in a little bit of a neutral mode at the moment and just sailing along and thinking, well, the season's. We're in the Premier League. The season's kind of over.
Yeah.
What was the position of Joe Linton? He looks like he played on the left hand side.
I thought that, Ollie. I thought it. Someone asked me actually when I was watching it, saying, "Where is Joe Linton playing?" And I watched him for about about 5 minutes, and I couldn't. To be fair, he did his best work yesterday when he was defending. He won the ball at left back, and then he won the ball at right back within the space of 10 minutes. And it was almost if he was just watching where everyone else went and just filling gaps. Do you know?
It is painful to look at him at the minute. For me, he needs to play through the middle. You either teach him or you let him on the bench. Don't try to play him. He's not a winger. He'll never be a winger. He can work as hard as he wants. It's never going to be a winger. If you want to put Gale, that's fine. Not my favourite player, but that's fine. But don't put him, Joelinton as a winger. That's what I think.
Yeah. Do we think he looks more comfortable on the wing, or is it still that awkwardness that sometimes he shows when he's up front?
No, it's not. For me, it's not. It's not good enough. It's not good enough from player perspective. And as a manager, you need to realise that he's not what you want him to be. You either put him in the middle as at least a second striker. So you put somebody around him like Gale, but you leave him in the middle. If you don't play him at all. Yeah. Don't try to make up a player that's never going to become a winger.
I think that's it. I think Steve Bruce has given him so many chances, and you can't fault Steve Bruce for what he's done, because he's won. Well, he's got the points, and he could get into the top 10 comfortably without a number 9 really this season, because he's only got you 1 or 2 goals. Yeah. So that's the difficulty, But nobody would have got a chance like Joelinton. He would have been on the bench for any other club, I think, after just not scoring for so long.
So that's the thoughts of the pundits. We will bring in our first guest now, not a debut for him. He has been on here before this season. We are welcoming the Athletics' Chris Waugh. Chris, welcome along. Good to see you. Good to come on. Yesterday, we've just been talking about the West Ham game. For yourself, is that the first game you've had since restart where you've maybe sensed a bit of complacency from Newcastle?
I don't know if it was so much complacency. I mean, it was a strange game, because actually first half I thought was relatively entertaining. I know there wasn't too many chances, but I thought it was quite an open game. Yeah. But then second half, I thought Newcastle were really tired, and maybe West Ham did a bit as well, and so it sort of had that feel. I mean, it was Newcastle's 5th game in less than 15 days, and that sort of started to take its toll a little bit. And I think we also saw how influential Alan Saint-Maximin's become, and when he went off for the last 20-25 minutes, Newcastle as an attacking threat sort of really petered out. So I think that we've seen how important he is to this side. So yeah, I wouldn't say complacency. I just think more fatigue, and just they've been on a good run, and for Newcastle to score twice and us to be disappointed, I suppose, shows how far they've come the last couple of months, because they couldn't score at all a few months ago. So.
You've quite brilliantly preempted my next question there, which is good. I was going to ask you about Alan Saint-Maximin. Are we seeing an over-reliance on him now?
Yeah, I think there is an over-reliance on him, and I suppose I do think that the other forward players look liberated as well. The 4-2-3-1 formation, I think Miguel Almiron looks a lot more comfortable as a number 10. He looks a lot more confident. The goal that he scored, very good team goal, but the way that he got on the end of it, the way that he was in the box and chasing it, there's something we wouldn't have seen early in the season. So I think he's improved. Joelinton I like more in that deeper role, and I also think Gale as a focal point as a centre forward gives Newcastle something different they didn't have before. But certainly Saint-Maximin is that spark when things aren't quite working. If you give Saint-Maximin the ball, everyone around him, you can see, thinks that something's going to happen. He seems to just inject confidence into his own teammates and sort of fear into the opposition. So I think there is a bit of over-reliance on him. But for any team in the bottom half, outside the top 6, really, who has a player like that, you look at Crystal Palace or Wilfried Zaha, even Wolves to a degree with Traore. If you have a player like that, then you will be over-reliant on them to a degree, just because their quality is a lot higher than some of their teammates.
You mentioned Dwight Gale as well. Didn't get a goal yesterday, but did continue the good form that he's shown at Bournemouth. Clearly moved on from that horror miss at Manchester City, and as you say, having a natural number 9, we've just been discussing it, seems to benefit this Newcastle side rather than Joelinton, who looks more comfortable in a different position.
Yeah, I think having someone who makes the runs that a natural striker or number 9 would make, someone who gives you that more of a focal point, staying up front, and not just a playoff, but also occupying defenders and dragging them certain ways. I mean, I feel for Joe Litton a little bit in the sense that the majority of the games he was playing was early in the season before this formation switch, and so he was often isolated, and Dwight Gale would have struggled if he played regularly in the previous formation to a certain extent. But I still feel that Joe Litton looks better facing towards goal, running with the ball rather than with his back to goal, trying to hold it up and bring people off. He doesn't seem the natural sort of goal poacher in terms of someone who's going to get in the box, whereas Dwight Gale makes Newcastle just tick a lot more being through the middle, and so I've liked seeing him in the side. Do I think he's the long-term answer? Probably not, but for now, having that natural centre forward, I think just makes Newcastle look a lot more of a threat, and I think occupies defenders and the opposition a lot more.
If we just look at the games since the restart of the Premier League, take out the FA Cup game, because it's probably not worth analysing that given the nature of the game. But in terms of Newcastle's league form, there's definite signs of improvement and a change in style from Steve Bruce.
Very much so. I mean, it's 6 games unbeaten, and some people look at you and say, oh, well, yeah, but look at the opposition they've played. But for Newcastle of the modern era to be 6 games unbeaten in general in the Premier League is a good achievement. They've got 8 points since the restart. They've come back and they've scored 10 goals in 4 games. In the previous 13 before restart, they'd scored 8. So they have really improved in an attacking sense. Have the opposition helped them in some games? Yes, they have. But Newcastle are looking more clinical. Certainly this change in formation has got those attacking players higher at the pitch. They look more liberated. It hasn't actually leaked as many goals as I think a lot of us feared it might. Yes, they conceded 2 at the weekend. But in general, they haven't shipped a lot of goals. And so they just look like they've got some nice balance at the moment. They're playing in a decent style. It's Man City up next, so you wonder how much they can continue that going to the Etihad, where they've got a terrible record. But in general, I think from restart, if you'd offered most Newcastle fans 8 points from those first 4 games, almost all of them would have snapped your hand off.
There was some fanciful talk of Europe last week, probably a bit far-fetched, but in terms of top 10, would that represent success for this Newcastle side?
I mean, success is all relative. I see a lot of Newcastle fans going, oh, why should we be celebrating the fact that we've got 43 points after this number of games? And I understand the frustration. I understand a lot of Newcastle fans feel that it shouldn't be this yearly struggle against relegation. But the reality of the situation, the reality of what they are under Mike Ashley is that's what they've become. And last summer, the situation Steve Bruce inherited, Newcastle had lost more than 50% of their goals in Rondon and Perez going. They signed a £40 million centre forward who really we have seen isn't a goal scorer, isn't really the answer at centre forward. Bruce arrived late during pre-season. It was turmoil. So if you've given them 43 points with 5 games to go, I think that is an achievement itself in the context of the wider scenario. So I do think the credit is deserved given the context of where Newcastle were last summer and where they are now.
Just to bring up one of your pieces that you've written recently about Steve Bruce, is he everyone's cup of tea now? You know, has there been a change in stance towards Steve Bruce? How did that go down? What have you made of the feedback?
I mean, it was a mixed reaction, I suppose. I mean, it wasn't a particularly scientific survey. Obviously, it was on the back of a 4-1 win over Bowman. If we'd done it a few days before, after the really quite insipid exit to Man City in the FA Cup, I'm sure it would have been even more negative. And obviously it's social media, so it's not necessarily representative of the wider fan base. But I think that there's sort of some Newcastle fans who clearly just are never going to have Steve Bruce and it doesn't matter what he does. But I do think there are quite a few who've mellowed and say, look, long term, do I want Steve Bruce as the manager? Probably not. But I think that given the situation he's been in, he deserves credit for the job that he's done. And then there's others who say, no, actually, he is starting to, a smaller minority, but some are saying, no, I am starting to mellow to Steve Bruce. If he can continue to evolve the style as he is now, if Newcastle can start to add more goals to the game as they're doing and stretch that over a longer period, then some will accept him. And I personally think that all he can judge is he asked when he came in to be judged on results and how Newcastle do. First half of the season or first 2/3 of the season, the football was awful, but Newcastle were in a strong position. Now they are evolving. It's about making sure that becomes that sustain that becomes a long-term thing. But for now, I think given the situation from last summer, I do think he's done a more than decent job.
I'll bring our pundits in. Ollie, I'll come to you first. What have you made of Steve Bruce?
Me, I always said whether it's Steve Bruce or how Spanish Benitez, for me it's exactly the same thing. You know, you're working with the core players that are decent but not exceptional. So yes, both manager got the best of the players they have. Giving more money, I think both managers would have done better, but any manager would have done better. Where I congratulate them is that they managed to galvanize players over the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years. The Newcastle side are quite strong mentally to always get out of that bottom three. Because for me, players are good enough to be in nearer to the 10th place.
Yeah, Darren, you praised Steve Bruce last week and said you thought he'd done a good job. He's probably proved that over the last 2 games. I mean, a great result down at Bournemouth, a solid result, I guess you could say, if not a spectacular performance on Sunday. What would quantify success for you for Steve Bruce this year, or has he already achieved it?
Well, I think he's probably achieved it. I think the guys are still in the Premier League. Obviously, there was a massive worry, obviously going into lockdown, that they could get dragged into the relegation. They could end up going down, which would have been a massive blow for the club. I think he's got a lot of critics, but I think he's kind of answered them. And I agree with Ollie. The last couple of managers have worked with what they've got. They've done extremely well. And when you're restricted to what you've got, it's very difficult, but you've got to try and bring your man management skills out and manage those players as best as you can. And I believe he's done that. And and to be fair, I believe, like I said in the last game, just gone, I think, Newcastle probably could have won that game. And Steve's probably disappointed in that. In the back of his mind, thinking, these guys maybe could have gone, a step further. But I agree with Ollie in a sense where he said, that they've started to build up this resilience to not get beat, which is not a bad thing. And I think, that's all down to, obviously the manager and any staff who he's got there.
Andy, I'll just come to you quickly. Do you think these comparisons between the former manager, Rafa Benitez, and Steve Bruce are slightly unfair?
Yeah, they are unfair, and they're getting a bit boring, to be honest. Now, I think everything you hear now is comparing Steve Bruce to Rafa Benitez, or Rafa Benitez to Steve Bruce, and it's like he's a manager that's come in, like Chris said, under not at the best stage. He was, pre-season was kicked off. He was ready to go. They were ready to go, and I think it's just been. It's unfair because Steve Bruce has done what he's done with the players he's got without any real help, and without, like I said, without a centre forward who's given even 10 goals, even 5 goals, So he's had to work that around. He has been fortunate that he's kind of got the best out of. Well, not fortunate, but he's got St Maximin on the way up. He's come into the Premier League wanting to prove a real point, and he's done that. He's looked excellent the last few games and before. And also, he's had the likes of young Matty Longstaff, who's obviously scored that goal at Manchester. He lifted the club at the right time, I think, as well. So he's had but again, like Darren mentioned, he's obviously done well with his, looking after the lads and looking after the team, because they're giving him everything. Yeah,
Chris, one last one before I let you go. Looking at the rest of the season, is it really about now Newcastle just continuing the momentum that had been built up since the restart and trying to finish the season strongly?
Yeah, I mean, Newcastle in a sort of strange psychological phase, I suppose. In terms of now that they are mathematically safe, and obviously it's Man City on Wednesday. I think that for Newcastle, it's where they can keep those motivation levels going, because, as you say, Europe, I don't think Europe's really realistic. I know it's very tight in there, but it would take a heck of a run for Newcastle to do that. You wonder if now they're going to come up against some teams, particularly Watford at the weekend, who have a lot more to play for. Is that going to affect them? It hasn't affected Newcastle so far. I thought there might have been a drop-off, and there hasn't been, but it'd be interesting to see how long that sustains for. But then the other element, obviously, is the prospective takeover, the never-ending story. There's the takeover. At some point, that is likely to take its toll. I mean, Steve Bruce, after the game, yes, it was interesting because for the first time I sensed some frustration with him. I empathise with him to the extent that what can he actually say about the takeover? He doesn't know anything about it. He hasn't been given any real updates from above, and he keeps being asked about it. And he was quite short and snappy about that. And eventually the players are going to want answers. Everyone's going to want answers, because you need to start planning for the next season. And I think it is likely to become a distraction over the next couple of weeks. So it's whether Newcastle can try and temper their way through that and get a few more positive results in and push towards that sort of 50-point mark if they can.
I was going to try and get through this without mentioning the takeover, but you've gone and done that. But anyway, Chris, just before you go, if you can just give us a quick plug for your work on The Athletic, where can we find it?
Yeah, so if you go to theathletic.com, actually at the minute we have a free 30-day trial if you go to theathletic.com/Newcastle pod, and basically we cover Newcastle and all other 20 Premier League clubs in just a different way, a more in-depth sort of insight into clubs. We also have a podcast, Pod on the Town, so feel free to check them out, and it'll be great to have you on board.
I even got through without calling you by your nickname, like you're harshly being branded with by the guys on Pod on the Town. But thanks for joining us, Chris. Enjoy the rest of your night, and we'll speak to you soon.
No problem, anytime. Cheers, guys.
So that is Chris Waugh from The Athletic. We're going to move on. to Middlesbrough in serious trouble now. Sat in the bottom three of the Championship. Jordan Hugill getting the only goal in the game yesterday to condemn them to a defeat against QPR. Darren, Middlesbrough now, really, it's getting very dangerous. It could have the possibility of a Weir Tees derby in League One next season.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, Jordan, if you looked at the teams yesterday, who would you have thought would have scored against Middlesbrough? Obviously, Jordan. He was there on loan for a bit. A lad I know very well. I had him with me. Unfortunately, he played in a game and come off after 10 minutes, but obviously he scored just prior to that, which obviously he did the other day against Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
It's worrying times for Middlesbrough. Obviously, the first game against Stoke, everyone thought, oh, great, it's looking good, it's looking bright, and then all of a sudden you get sucked back into it again, and it's very worrying because it's, I think Neil Warnock touched on it yesterday. They worked extremely hard in the previous game to actually lose the game for themselves, and they've kind of done the same thing again by a stupid mistake. They get punished, and all they had plenty of chances and plenty of crosses, but it just doesn't seem to be that cutting edge, and it seems like the players are not trying, but it seems like it's if they concede, they've got that loser mentality, which is a very difficult mentality to get out of. And when you're in a position like that, you've got to dig in. And I know, obviously, there was frustration about the way Neil set up and how he changes the side and left certain people out. But at the end of the day, the manager works with these players day in, day out. I think from the outside, you've got to just trust in the manager, and whatever he puts on that field, you're trusting him. That's his best side that he can put out on the day.
And Andy, I think we're seeing here that Neil Warnock, despite a positive start last week, there's still a lot of work to do with this Borough side. Yeah,
he kind of got the new manager bounced, didn't he? And which was a great win, but he's got to do. To be honest, Neil Warnock is so experienced that he'll know what it takes. It might not be his plan for going forward, but he'll know what it takes to get out of it. But if you look down there's 7 teams from top to bottom within 6 points, and then you've got the Wigan scenario, which is going to, really help one of the teams. Let's be honest. But saying that, Wigan could lose them points and still get out of it. So yeah, there's going to be 8 teams which could go down. So 5 are going to be all right. So all Middlesbrough have to do is just concentrate on, just getting a couple of wins together will be fine. But at the minute, it's not looking good because it's. But hopefully, you'll get it sorted.
Obviously, have Hull, Huddersfield, Charlton, Stoke all within touching distance of them, Ollie. Middlesbrough's next 2 games: Bristol City at home on Saturday, but first in midweek, Millwall away. Two tricky games there. They'll need to get, you would think, at least 4 points to really get out of this.
Yeah, and to be fair, they're 2 difficult games. I don't think 4 points is a lot to ask because there's 2 powerful sides in the league, and at the minute, Middlesbrough is lacking of confidence. So I'm very, very sceptical when it comes to Middlesbrough. Winning 3 points at the minute. I think I'm not sure it was the right time to change managers. They have. There's always the first game you always tend to win it, but then everybody settles and go back to what they were doing wrong. So I'm not confident when it comes to Middlesbrough. Unfortunately, they're good neighbours, but yeah, I hope they're going to get out of it.
We will come back to Sunderland soon, Darren, I promise. But we're going to go just down to Gateshead. Big week for Gateshead. Big month for Gateshead. They are back in training ahead of the National League North playoff eliminator Brackley Town. They've had 2 weeks worth of COVID-19 testing on their players and officials, all returned with negative results, thankfully. On Saturday, they announced that they got 3 loan players back. That's Jake Cooper, Liam Agnew, and Middlesbrough goalkeeper Brad James. Even better, another former loan player, Don Tay, was released by Huddersfield, and he's come back to Gateshead on a non-contract basis. So, to take us through what's happening at the International Stadium and how preparations are going, we do have Gateshead's assistant manager, Ian Watson, a familiar face for everyone in North East non-league football. We'll just wait for him to connect, just happening now, hopefully. Here he is, Ian Watson. Thanks for joining us, Ian.
No problem. Okay.
Yeah, we are living in very interesting times at the moment. Probably a sort of environment for training that you've never experienced before. How's it been? A couple of days back now with Gateshead.
Yeah, it's been really good. Obviously, we weren't really sure how it was going to sort of go down. We got given the rules, turn in the car park sort of 2-3 spaces away from everyone. Don't come out the car till you get your temperature taken. Cleaning the kit down after every session. Making sure the lads are apart when they're drinking and stuff like that, and they've got their own stations. So it did take a couple of days to get used to it, but now it seems like it's a bit of the normal, and it is what it is. We're just over the moon to be able to participate in the playoffs. So any sacrifices like that is just really small to us, to be fair.
When we go back 12 months, and I know the club are trying to move on to the next chapter, and they've been quite vocal in that. But when we look at where the club was, it was so close to going last season, to be in the playoffs, to be with a chance of making an immediate return back to the National League. It's been an amazing 12 months.
Yeah, well, to be fair, Mark, you were there in the stadium at the start of last season when we were trying to sign players, and we were getting no's left, right and centre, simply because we didn't have a base or a platform, so players didn't really want to come and join us because there was no one there at the club already, so they didn't know what the club was going to be like. So now it's the total reverse. We've got a lot of players sort of interested in coming in. The club's booming. The community side, which is sort of massive for Mike and myself and the chairman and all the board. That's the biggest thing really, is the community side of things. And if you speak to Ben Clark, and obviously I know he was on, and you sort of see some of the work that he's done. And you go back 12 months where there wasn't a club, and now the work that Ben's doing in the community and the work the club's doing, it's unbelievable really in the space of 12 months. Because
it is now a supporter-owned club, do you feel more of the pressure to kind of succeed as a football club?
I wouldn't say pressure, no. I honestly have never ever felt pressure from the day I was Ben's assistant, and now I've never felt pressure. We're all pulling the same direction, which I think helps, and that includes the players, the supporters, and Mike and myself are just a part of that, really. Obviously, we lead the boys on the pitch and stuff like that, but the community stuff's all just booming, and everyone's so involved that I can honestly say that I don't feel any pressure. Whether that's right or wrongly, I don't know, but I can only give you my honest opinion that I don't feel any pressure at all, really.
Just looking ahead to the playoffs, Brackley Town away. I think it's Sunday the 19th. You'll travel down there. Looking at the weekend, some great news that the 4 loan players are coming back. They've all played a key role this season, so have them for these games, or hopefully games, is a massive boost.
Yeah, it's huge for us, to be honest. Obviously, Brad's played every game bar one in goal. So to get our goalkeeper back was huge. And then you look at Coops, the centre half. If anyone's watched him play, they know what sort of future he's got in front of him. And then you've got your Aggers and Dom, and obviously all the full team. Really, it was good to get them all back in. But the loan players, because it was touch and go whether they were going to, and they all made such a difference last year. It was massive, and obviously it gives other lads confidence getting players back in as well. So yeah, it's really good to get them back in, and we're all sort of systems go now, really.
Brackley's going to be a tough test. It's not long ago they were FA Trophy winners, one of the stronger teams in the league. It's going to be a tough test down there.
Yeah, we just spoke about it today, to be fair. there's no harder tie. You know that their home record is outstanding. The fact they were in the playoffs last year and they got beat on penalties to Spennymoor, it just gives them that little bit of experience in the playoffs already, whereas our boys maybe haven't experienced that. Because we have got a lot of young lads, including the lone players, who have not really touched anything like that before. So no one at Gateshead's under any sort of illusion how hard this task is. We sort of pipped the last place. We know that we're probably looked at as underdogs, which is fine from our point of view, you know. But there's no one working harder than us as a club, as a management, as the players. So yeah, we're just really looking forward to getting down there and having a game of football, to be fair, which everyone's missed so much.
I think that the stock answer here might be just to say you don't want to look beyond Brackley, but I'm going to try and force you to now. If you do get past them, you know, it's Boston away. If you get past there, you're probably looking at, it could be York away. So you couldn't really have picked 3 harder games to try and get back into the National League.
No, you're right. Like, to be honest, within our training and stuff like that, we've got like kind of a motto where we just base it on the next session. So we don't even look at games. We'll just look at the next day. Can we be better the next day? Can we better the next day? But obviously, I'd be lying if you don't look at the playoffs and you think, well, if we beat this game, then we're playing them, and then we're playing them. And if you go any route, they're all tough games. So obviously, if Altrincham get to the final, they're an unbelievable side. If Chester get the final, they're an unbelievable side. So there's any route you go down is difficult, and they're all massive games, and it's going to be a very hard task for us. But as I say, we're leaving no stone unturned. Really, we're working as hard as we possibly can every day, to make sure that we're fully prepared, and that's all we can do, really.
I'll bring my 3 pundits in again. Gents, anyone can jump in on this. Gateshead going up would be a great boost for North East non-league football and North East football in general.
Fantastic, yeah. I think it's, you know, Gateshead's a great club, and I think they've actually, during all the kind of turmoil, I think there's been more. You know, it's got to people's hearts a little bit as well in the football industry, and I think people really want them to do well now. It's, you know, again, it's a club which is obviously doing, you know, has got some great backing from fans. You know, we'll say it could be, you know, fans could really get behind that club, and I think they are now. They are starting to, like you've just seen what you said about the community work, and there's some good guys running the ship now as well, in Ian and Mike. So yeah, it'll be fantastic. And like I say, I wish you luck, Ian, because it's you know, it's a great club, some good lads there, and I just hope you go as far as you can.
Thank you very much, mate. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Darren, a former club of yours, you must be delighted to see them on the way back up again.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you know, it's fantastic. I mean, you know, like you say, you go back over, and obviously we don't want to look in the past, but you know, very disheartening when, you know, see a club that could go under. You know, in any sort of football, really. You know, it doesn't matter who it is, but you know, one close to where we are, you know, would have been an absolute disaster. But you know, the guys have worked extremely hard. I mean, obviously the company I work for, Eye to Eye, you know, we took the guys to watch one of the games last season. You know, and the lads loved it. And then the lads were asking me week in, week out, can we go and watch Gateshead? Can we go and watch Gateshead? Just because they could relate to the football. You know, yeah, you know, they go and watch Newcastle, they go and watch Sunderland. They wanted to relate to something that was close to them. You know, and obviously, like, you know, maybe more or less close to their level that they can maybe achieve. But like I said to the lads, I said it's an extremely difficult level now. You know, it's getting better and better each year, and it would, like I say, it would have been so, you know, so disheartening to see the club go. For me, I think could the local teams, who were, you know, your Sunderlands, your Newcastles, help out a little bit more? Yeah, I think so. You know, especially at this time as well. You know, in this current situation we're in. You know, it'd be nice to see them get behind Gateshead, you know, as much as obviously, you know, we're all behind Gateshead. And obviously I wish them all the best. You know, I hope it comes off for them. Again, you know, they could be pitched up against obviously a team of mine where I started my career at York. But obviously, you know, Gateshead, you know, it is close to me, and I wish them all the very best.
Ian, just before I let you go, you know, there is pressure from yourselves, but externally, I think, as you said, it's seen as the underdogs. But no matter what happens over the next month, it's still been a great year for Gateshead, and clearly you must sense that the club is starting to go places now.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, touching on the sort of the ex-players and stuff like that. I've been at the club a long time now, and it does mean a lot to me. The club, even before I was at the club, I had a lot of close friends there. You know, Curtis, Chandler's, Ramshaw's, all them. And the fact that we were able to keep the club meant a lot to them as well. So as I say, the club means everything to me, really, and that's why we work as hard as we do, because we're all the same. Neil, the chairman, and the board, the club means everything to them. Mike has just thrown everything into it. He loves the area, he loves the place, and it goes hand in hand, and that's why we're able to sort of work as hard as we possibly can. And you're right, sort of, if you do look back over the year that we've just had, regardless of what happens from where it was a year ago, it's a success, you know. But you know what Mike's like, Mark. So there's the only success will be if we go on and we do something in the playoffs. So that's really, like, as you've touched on, you know, it's important that we do understand what happened at the club previously, and the club's history means a lot to us. But it's equally as important that we now just look forward and we try and push this club on as far as we can. When me and Mike came in, we said we had sort of a 4 or 5 year plan with the club, and we continue to do that, and we work sort of tirelessly really every day to make sure that we push that and get the club as high as we possibly can.
Ian, thanks for coming on. Best of luck to you, Mike, and everyone at Gateshead for the next few weeks. Hopefully we can get you back on in a month's time. You're back in the National League, but no pressure. But you know, enjoy having football back, and as I say, best of luck.
No problem. Thank you very much. Cheers, lads. Thank you. All right. Yeah. Cheers. Bye.
So, as I said, we will come back to Sunderland, Darren. No off-field action, obviously, but no on-field action, I should say. But off-field action there has been. Paul Reed, Academy Director, leaving the club, and another young player departing as well. Cole Keenan, the Republic of Ireland under-19 international striker, has gone to Middlesbrough. We spoke about the academy before, Darren. It's starting to get a bit worrying now. What's going on?
Yeah, it is. And you know, we said before, the academy is is a massive part of a professional football club. You know, that helps you bring play. You know, it helps you develop players, helps you save money, it helps you create money. But all it seems to be doing at the moment is, you know, creating money for coming into the club. You know, lads are going, lads are leaving. You know, lads are getting sold. And you know, even down to the women's team. You know, there's players leaving there. You know, which is very worrying times, and obviously, you know, we know Paul Reed stepped down, but you know, I know a lot of people didn't like him, and a lot of people, you know, say him a lot of good riddance, and you know, look at the situation. And but it's a tough job to do when, you know, players are leaving the club, you know, and it's extremely tough, you know, to get results against clubs when your players are either stepping up to the first team or your players are leaving the club, and you're kind of left with younger players maybe to bring through. To an older level, you know, on a more experienced level. You know, I think it's a little bit harsh maybe on Paul. I don't know the ins and outs of obviously what's going on, but it's very worrying times when, you know, you've got a Category 1 academy and you're losing players left, right and centre.
It's so sad as well when you think it's not so long ago the likes of Jordan Henderson, Jordan Pickford came through this academy. Does that make what's going on now even more depressing for Sunderland fans?
I think it does, yeah. You know, because obviously these guys stepped into the first team. You know, these guys, you know, done extremely well, and obviously, you know, have moved on to better careers. You know, fair enough. But you know, that's the whole process. You know, a lot of the times with a lot of clubs, you know, you bring them through. They get in the first team. They have success with the club. They have success, obviously, as an individual, and then obviously, you know, then they move on, obviously, which is where, you know, kind of clubs the likes of Sunderland, you know, make the money, you know, as it does at other clubs. But it's very worrying when they're leaving there before they've even touched anywhere near the first team.
Ollie, just to come to you on this one as well, when you look at where Sunderland are, you know, they're at the start of what has to be a rebuild. You would have thought the academy would be central to that. So rather than letting players go or losing players and losing the academy directly, you'd think they'd want to build it up and really strengthen that part of the club.
That's what I was thinking at first. You know, the club. Okay, sell your first team players, your older players, and keep your best young players, so you can count on them in 2-3 years, and stay in that division. What are they doing now? Is keeping the old players who are probably running out of contract. So yeah, you'll be finishing the season with probably 2-3 under contract, 3, 4 young players now will be sold by the time the season's finished, because it's going to once a week. Every time we're on the show, we hear one or two players leaving. So, we've got a few short to go. Unfortunately, for Sunderland, it looks like the academy would be -10. Yes, they're getting a bit of money, but in the end of the day, this is a recipe for disaster. Because
Andy, the fact that obviously in the past they've lost players to Manchester United, they've lost players to Liverpool. This time it's not a Premier League club, it's not a Premier League giant, it's Middlesbrough just down the road. Is that something to be even more worried about?
Yeah, that's the worrying thing, I think, because then you're more or less level pegging if you get within reason. But yeah, if you lose them to Man United, if you lose them to Liverpool, if you lose them to Everton, yeah, you can understand because of where they are in the table. But yeah, I think when they're looking at Middlesbrough, but saying that it is another league higher, or it might not be next season, but it certainly is at the minute. So they still look at that. It's very difficult. I've often thought about this with academies and League One teams. That you need a strong academy because you should be able to blood more players into League One than you can if you're maybe a Premier League academy, because there's more scope for them to learn. It kind of saves you loaning them out to League One clubs, League Two clubs. You can actually get them playing for you. But that's where you need, and I agree with the two lads, that you need a strong academy. You need someone somewhere for this talent to go. And yes, you're going to get the odd one drifting higher. And that's good, really, because it means the academy's done the job. But no, I think they're going to have to do something because they are the bleeding players at the minute.
Darren,
sorry, mate.
No, go on.
It just seems like peculiar that you'd put all that hard work into getting your Cat 1 status, getting your academy up to where you want it to be, and then just let your best players just go.
Yeah,
we get it. Like Andy said, sometimes you've got to let your kind of players go to your Man United and your stuff like that. But you're losing them at Middlesbrough, potentially could be a League One side next year. It's just.
For me, it just looked like they throw the towel, and players. If you find a club, I'm happy for you to go. It seems like that, and that's for me. I think they've decided to let it go.
Well, you need to get rid of uncertainty, don't you? Because when a player's deciding what to do, they don't want to be really signing for a team which the academy which is uncertain about their future. What they need to do is to square it all off. Say we're going to be here, we're going to be doing this. It's sound, but at the minute that it's uncertain. So Middlesbrough is it's a solid academy. They might think, right, okay, it's level pegging, so we'll just go there because we don't know what's happening with Sunderland.
They've got the best facility in an office. Facility in an office, and without a shadow of a doubt, if they had kept those players within 12 months, them players would have been knocking on the first team doors, at least training, and that give a boost for the players who wants to sign for the club, because youngsters just want to play football. Whether it's for Newcastle, Sunderland, Middlesbrough, you want to be as successful as you can. And at the minute, Sunderland was the Cat A that in an office you want to be in. And unfortunately, it's turning out to be a real nightmare.
Is the danger now that Sunderland players, young players coming through, their priority will be, I could get a move to a Manchester United or a Liverpool, rather than can I get myself in the first team at Sunderland? Is that a danger now?
Well, it is a danger. I think that's from a mindset. I think players could think like that. I think obviously if I was talking to the young players, I would be like, you need to establish yourself, at a level. You need to be pushing on the first team door before you actually personally start thinking about a move, because we've seen a lot of academy players, really good academy, move from let's say for instance Sunderland to Tottenham or Sunderland to Man United, and the jump's way too far for them. They get overlooked. They then go out on loan, and then they kind of spiral down the ladder quickly. Whereas, if they start and develop, at a Cat 1 academy or a very good academy, and start to push and knock on the first team door, like we've had the Jordan Hendersons, the Pickfords, they've done that. They've got in the first team. They've done extremely well. They've gone on a fantastic careers. I think young players have got to start having that mindset now, I think they could get carried away with it, and I could understand why they would. But I think personally, you've got to establish yourself. If you look at the results of the academy over the last season, it's embarrassing. It is absolutely embarrassing for a Cat 1 academy. They're getting 6 6, 7 nils and stuff.
Yeah, as a young player, you wouldn't want to be at the academy of, like, let's say Durham City. You want to be at the best academies. You're always looking to be because you want to better yourself. You say to yourself as a competitor, if I can train with the best, I'll become the best. You're not going to be, I use Durham because it's very easy. It's an amateur club, so a player who's got ambition and talent wouldn't think about going to Durham. It would go straight away to Sunderland, Newcastle, Middlesbrough, because he knows there's a chance for him to make it to the top.
Totally agree with you, Al. But what I'm saying is, I think young lads now, they need to actually show this. If you look at them results, there's no way any of them lads have showed any promise. You as an individual, you got to start out.
Agree.
Interesting times at Sunderland, and interesting times for the academy as well. So we're going to move on. It's been another busy week in North East non-league football. Plenty of comings and goings, despite lockdown and coronavirus. Dominating the headlines, there's been a lot of signings. Just going to run through a few of them. At Dunston UTS, one goalkeeper in, one goalkeeper out. Andy Dryden leaving the club, one FA Vars winning goalkeeper. But if you're going to lose one Vars winner, why not bring another one in? Liam Connell gone back to Dunston, the club where he won the FA Vars in 2012. Good replacement.
Yeah, fantastic. Fantastic replacement. It doesn't often happen like that with goalkeepers. But yeah, to have someone like Liam lined up is a great shout for them, and they'll be chuffed to bits with that.
And the experience he's got as well will be vital.
Yeah, good for the dressing room. Yeah, it's absolutely ideal. The level that Dunston are at now, he's used to that. So it just ticks every box. He's kind of going back to an old club, used to the level, good keeper, good lad, good age now as well. So yeah, they've done very well, Dunston there.
Did sort of hint when I spoke to him last week that he's the oldest player in that dressing room by quite some way now. But I'm not sure that's.
Goalkeepers are allowed to play at like 60 or something, aren't they? Just
We'll move over to Seaham Red Star. A couple of, I hope they don't mind me saying this, but a couple of surprise signings at Seaham Red Star. Andrew Johnson, former Bishop Auckland striker, and Luke Sullivan signing from Heaven. Two prolific strikers. Ollie, nod in agreement there.
Yeah, two players that I've seen playing in another league for some years now. They're probably the better ones you'll see in the Northern League divisions. Very mobile, very and scoring goals week in, week out. They've shown that quality over the years, and surprised that they are signing there, but good players, good for the club.
Credit Mark Collingwood getting those two deals over the line. Another one at Sunderland RCA, Anthony Callaghan, former South Shields and Blythe Spartans left wing back or left back. He's quite versatile. Darren, a great signing there for RCA, someone who looks as if he's beyond his injury problems he had a couple of years ago and ready to go again in the Northern League.
Yeah, totally. No, I'm tired. I brought him in at Whitby for a while. He had a bad injury previous to that, which obviously seen him out of football for a bit. We came in a great attitude. Great, like you said, versatile player. Left back, left wing back. And I remember actually calling upon him to play to centre half for me in a back three against Blythe, and we beat them 1-0. And he done an extremely good job. Great lad, great attitude, great work rate. Always a lad that would keep himself fit and look after himself, and will be a good signing for them.
Andy, we'll go to one of your former clubs, to North Shields. A number of players have committed to staying at the club next season. Just to pick out one of them, Cam Cunningham, someone who's seen as one of the brightest talents in Northern League football. A real boost to get him signed on for next season. You'd imagine there'll be considerable interest in him from higher up the pyramid.
Yeah, it's done well to get him kind of tied down. That's it's a great signing, and as his other signings, David Robinson coming in, he's a good lad. I've worked with Dave before. Good lad, leader, great engine. So yeah, he's going to add another dimension to the team. So yeah, they'll do all right next season. No shoes. I think they'll have quite a good squad. But yeah,
Dan Wilson's gone back as well, Claire, you know.
Yeah, Claire, I know very well. Yeah, actually just seen him on a bike ride the other day. Actually, trying to keep fit. Big lad, good feet for a big lad. Can hold it up, can drop it off. Again, he's one of these lads who you kind of just, when he wants to score goals, he just scores goals. It's when he tries to be. I always used to tell him, when you're too nice as a forward, you're too unselfish, you're not gonna do much. And he's got that little bit of selfishness as a forward back. And yeah, he's a lovely lad, Dan. And yes, yeah, he's another great addition for them.
Speaking from experience of being selfish up front there.
Absolutely. Gary Lineker always used to say, show me an unselfish goal scorer and I'll show you one that doesn't score many goals. And I think that's typical, isn't it?
That is. Now, we started this segment talking about a player going back to a former club, so it seems nice to bookend it by speaking about another one going back to a former club, Ben Harmison, back at Ashington. Great deal for Ashington, someone who scored goals at a higher level as well. How do you think they'll utilise him next season, Andy?
He'd be ideal because they've got a lot of young lads in Ashington. Ian's brought a lot of young, not kids, but younger lads who kind of need someone like a Ben. But it's a great fit because Ben's had a few clubs recently. He obviously he's an Ashington through and through lad. He'll go in there. He'll love the club. Obviously, 2 minutes from his house, and he'll be thinking, right, I can really show these lads how to go on, and kind of bring the dressing room together. So yeah, I think he's a great signing, and obviously put him with the likes of Curtis Coppin now, who's got a bit of experience under his belt, the club captain. I think yeah, it's a good sign, and I think it's a great fit for both.
That is all for been another busy episode of Football Matters. Plenty to have been discussed. Give us a follow on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, and Instagram. On Instagram as well. And don't forget to subscribe to us on iTunes and SoundCloud to get the podcast, which will be released every Tuesday morning. Thank you to Chris Waugh from The Athletic and Gateshead's Ian Watson for joining us. And as always, thanks to Darren, Ollie, and the returning Andy Bowman for a fine return to the first team lineup. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. Goodbye for now.